All right, so next we're going to talk about blood trailing. Right here, I have a picture. This is from a hog that I shot. I like to take pictures as I blood trail just so I can stay on track and know exactly, where I've been at. Oftentimes, I will also, when I am in the blood trailing process, I'll either mark my map or mark a spot on my phone to try to generally keep a sense of direction on where I'm going with that blood trail. So right here, if you look at this blood closely, you can get an idea. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger for us. I want you to take a look at this blood. So this is pretty bright and it's got some bubbles in it. If you look closely, you can kind of see that. When the blood has bubbles and it is bright, that often means it is a vital hit. You hit the lung at the very least, and that means something good. Now you can single lung, you can double lung. A single lung is going to take a lot longer, well, considerably longer for that animal to die in most cases than a double lung shot. Now if you hit it through the double lung in the heart, much faster. So what exactly is blood trailing and how do you do it? If you haven't figured it out by now, blood trailing is identifying drops of blood from that deer that after the deer has run off and tracking down that deer by following that blood trail. If blood trailing sounds like something that you are not willing to do, deer hunting is not for you. You need to understand that after you've made this shot, you have the responsibility to track down this deer and harvest it. Wounding a deer or letting a deer rot in the woods because you are lazy is not an excuse. Do not hunt if that's going to be you. All right, so here's some general steps that you can take to be effective at blood trailing. After you shoot a deer, wait at least half an hour before you attempt to blood trail that deer. Unless you see the deer dead in front of you as you're sitting in that tree stand or that blind, do not leave where you're at for about half an hour. You want to let the woods calm down a little bit. Then you're going to go to where the deer was standing, the general area. And before you get there, you start looking hard and close at the ground for blood. Look all around. If you shot a bow, look for your arrow, but start looking before you get to the spot where you think that deer was standing. That way there's no possible way that you walk over the arrow, step on a broadhead, or step on a blood trail and really mess it up. So what you're doing is you're looking for blood, you're looking for your arrow. If you shot with a rifle, there's probably not going to be as much blood, but there can still be blood. Now look at the way the blood is going. In this picture, you can see that the blood is kind of mostly concentrated up near the bottom and goes kind of up on the picture as if the hog was running in that direction. That was the case. There was basically a bright red trail through the woods for hundreds of yards because this hog just wouldn't stop bleeding, but it was super easy to follow. So you could be seeing signs like this, or you could see just a drop here and there. If you're seeing just a drop here and there, I hate to tell you, but that deer may survive, and without a good indication, like lots of blood on the ground, I would tell you to wait even longer to continue blood trailing that deer. You do not want to jump that deer while it's wounded and have it run all day long just trying to ensure that it gets away from you and then die somewhere that you'll never be able to find it. What you want to do is wait. You could wait a few hours, 6 hours, sometimes overnight, depending on how cool it is where you're at, and come back, giving that deer enough time to die. That's really what you're doing. The last thing that you want to do, I know we said we want to give these deer the quickest death possible, but it is very hard to get a second shot on a deer that's already wounded, and it's very hard to sneak up on a deer. Okay, so some problems that you might run into. Let's say you've been following these drops of blood and all of a sudden it stops. What I would tell you to do is to mark that last place where you found blood with something a little bit more obvious than just a drop of blood. If you have a hat on and you can take it off, take the hat off, hang it from a branch. If you have something bright colored with you, I recommend taking out some bright orange tape, tear it off, hang it from a tree limb right above where the blood was. You'll have a nice visual indicator of where that animal's going should you kind of lose track of where you're at. Now, the last place you found that blood, you start looking in the direction it was moving. Start walking very slowly and get low to the ground looking for blood in the direction it was moving. If you don't find any blood, what you're going to want to do is head back to that blood and now think about looking at trails, look at natural funnels and see, okay, based on how this animal has been moving the whole time I've been tracking it, it seemed like it was going to go left, but it might have gone right here. So then you check, the most obvious places to you where that animal might have went. If you just can't find anything at all, the best thing to tell you is get a tracker out there. Somebody who has a blood trailing dog that knows how to sniff out a dead deer. That is probably your best bet. If you're tracking at night, you're going to want a flashlight. Sometimes certain flashlights are made for blood trailing, and those can work during the daytime to kind of illuminate that blood a little bit more. I'd recommend one of those. And then, the last thing I would tell you is don't get so focused in on blood trailing that while you're blood trailing, you spook the deer that you're trying to find. That sounds maybe a little bit silly, but you'd be surprised. You're looking so close at a drop of blood that might be this small on the ground, and you're getting down low to the ground to find it. You're probably making more noise than you should be. You want to make as least noise as possible. And you're probably alerting that deer, if it's anywhere nearby, of your presence and giving it a chance to run away. So you want to be very, very careful about your presence being known in the woods and lighting up the woods, basically. You don't want to scare off all the deer.